Okay, tuloy po tayo sa discussion 'no, dito po tayo sa derivative suit 'no. So, baguhin natin ang konti dito aside from, giving you the principles, explaining to you the principles, magbabasa tayo ng mga sample bar questions, yung mga natanong dati, and tingnan natin paano bang na-apply yung 6 na requisites na yan. Okay, anyway simulan natin 'no. So, ang important po talaga dito, important naman lahat, pero usual na natatanong na bar sa bar ng mga requisites dito yung number 1, number 2, saka number 6, so may star. Okay, why? Madali po kasi silang gawa ng bar question, no? Madaling gawa ng question and at the same time, mata-challenge talaga yung nagsasagot kung hindi nila alam yung basic. Okay, the first one is, the petitioner must be a stockholder of record at the time, no, that the act being complained of was committed. No, sabihin natin, 2019 siya, 2019 nagawa yung act being complained of, tapos 2022 lang naging stockholder of record yung petitioner. Question, can the petitioner file a derivative suit? No, because he was not a stockholder at the time the act was committed. Next tayo important, yung number 2 at saka yung number 6. Okay? Number 2, sabi ko, the suit must be in the name of the corporation and not in the name of the stockholder. Why? Because in a derivative suit, the entity with the cause of action is the corporation. The stockholder does not have a cause of action in a derivative suit. Kung gagamitin natin yung principles under remedial law, as provided under remedial law, ang corporation po ang real party in interest. Okay? Ito po ang real party in interest. Kasi, ito pong corporation ang mag-i-stand to be benefited or injured, di ba? By the effects of the judgment, or siya po ang party na entitled sa avails of the suit. Di ba? The corporation will be benefited or will be injured by the judgment. Hindi naman po yung stockholder eh. O ngayon ang tanong, attorney, hindi ba siyempre pag natalo sa kaso yung corporation, naapektuhan din yung stockholder? Tama ba yung argument na yun? The answer is no. Because meron pong separate and distinct personality, S&D personality, yung corporation at saka yung stockholders. In that sense, yung corporation po ang madidirectly injure by the adverse judgment. Yung pong stockholder, indirect or inchoate, sorry, pangit susulat. Indirect o inchoate lang yung injury niyan, if ever. So, hindi po talaga siya ang may cause of action. No? Kasi if meron mang injury, indirect. Kasi nga, the corporation and the stockholder, they have separate and distinct personalities. Alakihan ko yung yan. Nahirapan yung mata ko. O ngayon, next tayo, requisites, no? Also important, pero mas madali talaga kasing gawa ng tanong yung 1, 2, and 6. Next, the petitioner must exhaust intra-corporate remedies. This is the general rule. Ang exemption is if the corporation is under the complete control of the defendant in the case. Sabihin natin, yung kaso is against the board of directors, against the chairman of the corporation. Chairman is yung head ng board, di ba, directors. Hindi na kailangan mag-exhaust ng intra-corporate remedies. Why? Because that is useless. Di ba? That is useless and just cumbersome. Because there will be no remedy, di ba, afforded to the petitioner if he avails of the intra-corporate remedy, since the defendant, no, the would-be defendant, because the corporation is under the complete control of the possible defendants in the case. Okay, next. The derivative suit is not a harassment or nuisance, no? Suit. Okay tayo dyan, no? Number 5, ito. The appraisal right is not available. So, kailan po ba nagiging available ang appraisal right? Yan ang tanong. No? So, ano yung muna natin, no? Yung big four, ano muna, yung 4 na titles muna, and then we break down after. First is amendment ng Articles of Incorporation. Pero dadagdagan natin, no? Hindi lang, not all amendments of Articles of Incorporation may available na appraisal right? No. Diba? Depende ano ba yung amendment na ginawa. We will tackle that later. Next is sale of all or substantially all of the assets of the corporation. Next is merger or consolidation, di ba? And last is investment of corporate property for other purposes, no? Than that stated as the primary purpose of the company. Okay. Yun po ang titingnan ko lang din, no? Kung tama ba yung mga sinabi ko. I think tama naman. Titingnan ko lang kung may nakalimutan ako. Sa appraisal right. Kung ayan na, nagka-tangent na ako, hindi ko naman talaga itatakal yung appraisal right. Kaya na-cover na natin sa lecture din. No? Kasi nabanggit na rin dito sa derivative suit Ayan, no? Appraisal right is not available. So nabanggit na, might as well itakal na natin kahit na hindi ko naman siya planong itakal ngayon. No? So sige, nakakapag-add tayo ng extra info for you guys. No? So tandaan nyo po, no? Natanong na ito, parang nagkaroon na rin ng pwedeng matanong sa bar, no? To test your ability to to dissect the revised corporation code, no? Not all instances of amendments ng articles of incorporation pwede ka mag-appraisal right. Tandaan, hindi naman kayo tatanungin likely nung process paano bang i-raise, paano bang i-enforce yung appraisal right. Ang tanong sa inyo, basic, tandaan niyo, no? So yan, is the appraisal right available in this case? Mga ganun, no? Can there be? Is the preemptive right available in this case? Mga ganun yung tanong. Anyway. Ayan, sa appraisal right, tama naman ako, no? So, amendment of articles of incorporation, tandaan nyo, it must have the effect of changing or restricting the rights of the stockholders or authorizing preferences in any respect superior to those of outstanding shares of any class and extending or shortening the term of corporate existence. Okay? So, paano, attorney, kapag itinaas yung authorized capital stock? You need an amendment for that, correct? Ayan, pahirapan ko kayo. Kailangan ng amendment ng articles, di ba, para itaas yung authorized capital stock. O tanong, itinaas, no? Nagkaroon ng botohan, yung board, no? Okay, approved. Tapos 2/3 vote, no? Nakuha po sa stockholder. So, na-comply yung voting requirement. Ipinasa yung dokumento na required, no? Sa SEC. Tanong, yung bang mga stockholders who disagreed in the increase, no? To the increase of the authorized capital stock, can they exercise their appraisal right? Ayan. Dalawa nga pwede ko itanong sa inyo eh. Una kong itatanong sa inyo, is the preemptive right available in this case? Pasok ko nga yun. Sige nga. Ano natin, review naman to. Ano, parang gusto ko nga ipasok yun. Yes, no? Pwede pong i-exercise ang preemptive right. Pag inisyo na yung authorized capital stock, sige nga. Ayan. Nag-tangent na tayo. Pag kasi nag-increase ka ng authorized capital stock, tandaan nyo na lang to muna bago natin pala i-breakdown to. Tandaan nyo, kung 100 million ang authorized capital stock ng corporation, hindi po automatic 100 ang issued. Okay? Pwede mong sabihin na 100 million ang authorized capital stock mo, pero for the meantime, 10 million lang i-issue mo. So meron kang 90. Okay? Hindi ibig sabihin na pag 100 million ang authorized mo, 100 million din ang subscribe capital stock. Wrong. Okay? O yung tinatawag na total outstanding shares. Okay? Sana po nagigit. No? Sabihin natin, ayan, pag in-increase pa lang yung authorized capital stock, wala pang preemptive right. Papasok lang po yung preemptive right pag nagkaroon na ng resolution, board resolution na mag-i-issue pa tayo ng additional shares for subscription. Okay? Sabihin natin, 50 million nag-start o in-increase yung authorized capital stock. 50 to 100 million. O, Nung pa lang sa pag-increase, wala pang preemptive right. Hindi pa pwede kasi hindi pa naman i-distribute yung shares eh. Magsisimula lang po yan once nagkaroon na ng issuance. Mag-i-start na po mag-issue. Pag ganun po, may preemptive right dapat yung mga existing stockholders of record. May tatlong exceptions when the preemptive right can be denied. As a general rule po, it must be exercised. It can be exercised. No? Depende kung gusto ng stockholder o hindi. No? Kailangan nila kasing gawin yan kasi otherwise, bababa yung percentage nila ng ownership. Sabihin natin dati, di ba 50 million natin in-issue lahat. Ang percentage of ownership ni A, 10%. Para naging 100 million, hindi niya in-exercise yung, tapos hindi niya in-exercise yung preemptive right niya, madadilute. Kasi yung extra 50 million mapupunta na sa iba. So ngayon 100 million yung magiging capital mo. Tapos itong si A, yung 10% niya, probably magiging 5 na lang. Mahahati sa dalawa. So kailangan ibigay natin sa kanila yung preemptive right para ma-maintain nila yung stock ownership nila. It's just that nagdala sila ng bagong kapital sa kumpanya. Di ba dati 50 million lang. O ngayon nag-extra 50 ka ulit. Di ba? Binigyan mo ng pera yung kumpanya, no? Bigay ka ng pera sa kumpanya at the same time, hindi bumaba yung percentage of ownership mo ng company. Or medyo negosyo na yun. Sana nagigit nyo, no? Anyway, let's go back. What are the three instances kung saan pwede po nating i-deny yung preemptive right, no? After nito, babalik ko sa appraisal right. After nito, balik na ako dito sa derivative suit, no? Gagawa na tayo ng example. Sige, so, ano po? Yan. Section 38. Tatlo po, no? Una is denied by the articles of incorporation. Nakalagay po talaga dyan. How can there be denial? Tandaan niyo po, ang denial, hindi naman automatic na nakalagay sa articles na all stockholders of record cannot exercise their preemptive right. Hindi po ganun ang itsura ng denial. Ang itsura po ng denial dyan normally, binibigyan po ng period to exercise yung stockholders of record to exercise the right of preemptive right nila. We are giving them 1 month to exercise their preemptive right. After that, the right is waived. Yun po ang context ng denial na yan. Napakadalang ng outright denial kasi ba't naman ganon, di ba? Ba't naman ganon? Ba't naman natin i-deny just because walang reason? Di ba? Mas maganda po, syempre, ang realistic talaga, no, na clause para sa preemptive right na yan, bibigyan natin ng time yung stockholder of record to exercise yung preemptive right niya. Di ba? Ngayon kasi sabihin natin, after 1 month, hindi pa nga siya nagbibigay ng, ng parang willingness to exercise. Kailangan magkaroon na ng pera ng kumpanya. Kaya nga tayo nag-increase ng authorized capital stock. Kailangan ng infusion ng added capital, di ba? We need to infuse added capital to the corporation. So, huwag mo siya pag-intayin ng 1 month. Yun po ibig sabihin ng denial. Yun ang context. O 1 month, hindi mo nagawa. Denied. Ang right of preemption mo, yung preemptive right mo. Ganun po ang galawan dyan. Okay? Okay, ganun. That's the only thing I'm trying to say just sa first exception na yan. Second exception, no? Yung pong shall not extend to shares issued in compliance with laws requiring stock offerings or minimum stock ownership by the public. Pag kasi publicly traded na yung stock sa Philippine Stock Exchange, mayroon dapat basically mayroong available shares, no, na tine-trade sa PSE. Unless gagawin mo ng private yung corporation, bibili mo na lahat ng shares. Kaya nga nagkakaroon ng tender offer, which we will tackle later. We will tackle that later. Ayun. Next. Eto na. Or to shares issued in good faith with the approval of stockholders representing 2/3 of outstanding capital stock in exchange of property needed for corporate purposes or payment of previously contracted debt. So medyo mas complicated na siya. Ibig lang po sabihin yan, may existing contract or mayroong magiging contract between the corporation and another entity. Pwedeng corporation, pwedeng tao. And sabi po sa agreement na to, ibibigay ko sa yung property mo, but we need to deny yung preemptive right. Ano itsura niyan? No? Ang itsura po niyan, sabihin natin, wag na tayo sa debt. Okay, sige, gawa natin pareho. Sabihin natin sa property. Gustong bilhin yung property na to para bumuo ng building. Okay. So ano sabi? Sabi sa kontrata, no? I-increase yung authorized capital stock ng company A, sabihin natin. Tapos, yung sa increase na to, i-issue natin lahat ng bagong authorized capital stock na to, ibibigay natin to sa may-ari ng lupa na tatayaan natin ng building. He will have the right to subscribe to the new shares. Ganun po itsura niyan. So, tanong, attorney, pag ba in-issue natin itong shares na to, may approval ng 2/3 of stockholders, may approval. Kasi nga, kailangan nila yung lupa niya para makipatayo nila yung building. O, tanong, later on, mag-i-issue na ng shares. Can the stockholders exercise their preemptive right? The answer is no. Kasi nga ang agreement is, yun ang context niya, no? I-deny natin yung preemptive right because, di ba? The shares to be issued, no, yung bagong shares from the increased authorized capital stock will be used as payment to buy property. So paano kang bibili ng property doon sa seller at the same time i-exercise yung preemptive right mo? How does that work? Di ba? Magkausap kayo, basically magkausap yung corporation at saka yung stock, saka yung seller. Nung una, sabi, sige, pambibili namin sa'yo, wala kaming cash, ang pambibili namin sa'yo, shares sa lupa. So gagawin namin, since wala naman kaming bagong shares, no, lahat ng shares namin nakadistribute na sa madlang people. O ganito gagawin namin, itataas namin yung authorized capital stock namin, tataas namin, no? 2/3 naman sa amin, agree. Get? 2/3 naman sa amin, agree. So may 1/3 na hindi agree. 2/3 naman sa amin, agree. Yung bago naming shares na i-issue sa'yo lahat, yun ang magiging price. Yun ang magiging purchase price, yun ang pambayad namin sa purchase price ng property mo. Sabi ng seller, I approve. I like to be part of your company. Kasi magandang kumpanya yun. Ang ganda niyan, yung lupa ko pa, ang gagawin yung building, headquarters. Di ba? Win-win for everyone. Kaya later on, hindi mo pwedeng i-exercise yung preemptive right mo. Whether kontra ka dun sa building na yun, pagbili ng building na yun, o agree ka dun, you cannot. Kasi, you would breach the contract. Di ba? Kung papayagan natin yun, the laws would sanction. Di ba? Violation of the terms and conditions of a contract sale. See? Sana pa nag-get nyo. O isa naman, sandali na isa debt. May pre-existing debt. O sabi nung corporation, wala po kaming pambayad dyan. No? Ngayon, we don't have cash. What if bayaran namin kayo ng shares? So, ano gagawin? Itataas natin yung authorized capital stock. O, ngayon, yung bagong, tinaas, 50 to 100 million, 50 million yun din. O ito, kung 50 million na extra na ito, ibibigay namin sa inyo lahat yung shares na yan. We will pay you in shares. Instead of cash to pay the debt that we previously contracted to you, we will pay you in shares. O ngayon, magiging part ka na ng company namin. Pwedeng 50% owner ka na kasi yung buong 50 million na bagang authorized capital stock, ibibigay namin sa iyo lahat. That's how we pay you. See? So ngayon, yun ang sinabi mo, pambayad dun sa bangko, pambayad dun sa lender, tapos mag-exercise ka ng preemptive right mo later on. That doesn't, di ba? That's not, that contradicts good relation sa contract. Di ba? Di ba? Basically, pinag-usapan natin bilang later on, mag-preemptive right ka. Hindi na naging pambayad sa lupa o naging pambayad sa utang yung in-increase. Yan po ang context niya. Yan pala, no? Aside sa remedial law, kaya tayo nahihirapan sa remedial law kasi we don't have context. Kaya tayo nahihirapan sa commercial law kasi sobrang obscure ng mga topics. Hindi pa naman ito na-experience lang. Law student, no? Kasi, di ba, hindi naman lahat dito may experience sa negosyo. Di ba? Or may experience sa corporate law. Di ba? Hindi naman lahat eh. No? Especially kung more on litigation ang focus mo. No? Yun ang iniisip mong gawin after passing the bar. Di ba? You're not familiar with these things. Di ba? That's why I'm giving you context. Ang ganda naman po sa corporation law kumpara sa remedial law, hindi po ganun ka-interconnected yung mga provisions. Yun ang kaya remedial law talaga ang, well, in a sense, kaya siya talaga mahirap kasi everything is connected. Dito kasi like, iba naman yung denial of power to the preemptive right sa, ano eh, sa, sabihin natin, power to extend or shorten corporate term. Magkaiba siya, di ba? Yet magkalapit lang silang sections. Yung power to increase, power to extend or shorten corporate term, 36. O yun namang preemptive right, 38. Magkalapit na sections pero they are totally different principles, di ba? So hindi ganun ka-heavy yung correlation. Unlike, remedial na rule 3, binabalik ka mo, nasa rule, ano ka na, nasa rule 38 ka na, something like that, no? Okay. Anyway, you get the point. Yun ang ibig sabihin niyan. Now, let's go to appraisal right. O ngayon, attorney, itinaas kayo at authorized capital stock. No? Tinaas kayo authorized capital stock. Pwede bang i-exercise yung appraisal right? Nung parties tuloy. Stockholders who disagreed. No? So, babalik tayo sa ano ba yung nakalagay doon. Nakalagay po sa appraisal right, the effect of changing or restricting the rights of any stockholder or class of shares. Pag ba itinaas mo authorized capital stock, would that change or restrict the rights of a stockholder? Di ba? Okay, so ang sagot po dyan, wala pong appraisal right dahil in-increase lang natin yung authorized capital stock. Why? Unang-una, uulitin ko, hindi po itinaas mo yung authorized capital stock, i-issue mo na siya. That's the next step. The first step is just increasing the authorized capital stock just because you want it. Diba? Hindi po automatic na basically liliit yung ownership ng ibang mga stockholders. Hindi automatic. And at the same time, as a general rule, may preemptive right naman yung stockholders of record. So that means, kung ayaw mong bumaba yung yung ownership of the company, di ba, mag-preemptive right ka. So hindi po na-restrict, hindi na-change, may paraan para hindi ma-change o ma-restrict yung basically ownership right, yung percentage of ownership ng mga stockholders. Di ba? Kaya sa increase of authorized capital stock, hindi po siya covered ng appraisal right. So ano po ba ang context ng appraisal right? Yung first one, yung in case of amendment or amendment of articles of incorporation, restricting, no, changing the rights of the stock of shares. Sabihin natin dati may preference as to distribution of dividends, kaya wala na. Yung mga ganun, yung po ang context niyang pagbabago ng rights, no? O sabihin natin, yung preferred dati, voting, ngayon, magiging non-voting na. Ganun po, no? You get the point. Yung po ibig sabihin nun. Yan ang ibig sabihin niyang amendment ng Articles of Incorporation na yan. Okay? Anyway, lumayo na tayo, lumayo. At least may natagdag akong kaalaman sa inyo. Let's go back to this one, no? So yan, kompleto na tayo. O now, pangako ko sa inyo, magbabasa tayo ng bar questions, di ba? For derivative suit. Magbabasa ako ng, upo ako. Babasa ako ng 2 questions, sagutan natin. Okay, anyway, nasa bar Q&A naman ito na binigay. Ay, doon pala, sorry. Sa mga enrollees pala yun. Hindi naman pala lahat dito enrollees. Yung mga enrollees natin, guys, you have the bar Q&A. All of them. Diba? You have all of them. Check, isasabihin ko ngayon. Anyway, paalam din sa mga hindi po naging part ng review season, no, na nag-avail nitong pre-week. Salamat po. No? At magkasama tayo ngayon. Ako naman lahat gumawa. No? Ako naman lahat gagawa for 8 subjects. So magkakasama tayo ng mas matagal. Ito po yung snippet, no, nung ilan sa mga sinagutan natin for commercial law. Okay? By the way, Bar Q&A din, kami din ang gumawa. From remedial law to political law in 10 years. So basically, ilang taon po yung sinagutan namin? 80 years of bar questions sinagutan namin. Kaya ano, I apologize doon sa mga enrollees natin. No? Hindi ko masyado nung una kasing nung hanggang mga April, talagang magkakausap kami lagi. Kaya lang after ng April na yon, nawala na ako, hindi na ako masyado nakikipag-usap kasi nga, wala eh, no? Ang dami ng like we didn't expect na ganun pala magiging ka-tedious yung paggawa ng bar Q&A. No? That's why yung ibang mga tao ginagawa talaga siyang book kasi it's not easy to answer bar questions. Madaling magsagot ng bar questions kapag ikaw nagte-take ng bar. Alam mo kung bakit? Mataas kasi adrenaline mo. So basically, kinakaya ng katawan mo, pinupush talaga ng katawan mo na magsagot ng 20 questions in X amount of hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. Kasi may adrenaline ka. Pag nagsasagot ka lang sa coffee shop, di ba? Kasi gumagawa ka ng materials for everyone para sa mga bar takers. Hindi po pala ganun kabilis. Kasi wala kang adrenaline, di ba? Ang meron ka lang yung hype na nabibigay sa'yo ng coffee. But other than that, wala talaga nagpo-push sa'yo to answer and answer and answer. Unlike iba talaga pag nagiging superhero ka pag bar examine ka eh. Hindi mo na imagine ganun kadaming info na ipapasok mo sa isip mo. Kasi it's very crucial, no? Kasi syempre, do or die yan eh. Diba, it's either you pass or you fail lang naman. Walang tie. Di ba? Walang tie sa bar. So yun, no? Anyway, natapos naman natin lahat yun. No, naki-distribute na rin sa enrollees. I hope magkaroon kayo ng time no, to answer. No, ngayon lang, dahil mas proper na yung natin. I-address ko na rin. Ngayon na malapit na ang bar season, ilang ilang tulog na lang, magbabar na kayo. I hope you find the time, no? Huwag kayong basa ng books, especially kung get nyo na yung topic. Yun ang mali pala, no? Tip lang din sa lahat. Baka yung parang feel nyo, morally obliged kayo. No? Morals, basic conscience pala, morally obliged. Ano to? Naging good manners and right conduct? Hindi, no? Siyempre sa konsensya nyo, parang gusto nyo magbasa pa ng second read kasi parang feel nyo that's how you get more points. Hindi ang pinagdaanan ko ron. Tandaan nyo, isa-second read nyo lang yung mga hindi nyo get. Sabihin natin, hindi nyo pa na-get yung paano kung mag-elect ng SEBA. Yun ang balikan nyo. Hindi nyo na-get paano magkaroon ng valid strike. Diba? Hindi nyo get ang modes of discovery. Yan lang isa-second read natin. Yan lang i-second read natin. No? Dapat hindi man i-second read pati mga get mo na topics. Kasi pag get mo na yung topic, hindi na dapat reading stage ang gagawin mo dyan. The stage should be answering stage. Get mo na ang kidnapping for ransom with homicide. Sabihin natin, no? Under the revised penal code. It is now time for you to check bar questions. To test yourself. Mali. No? Mali yung basa ka pa ng basa ulit. No? Tandaan nyo, whatever sinasabi ko na rin sa inyo based sa experience ko as a bar taker, no? What I could have done better, no? Para tumaas yung grades ko, no? Sa bar. And at the same time, ano experience ko ngayon? Na nasa other side na ako of the aisle, ako ni gumagawa ng material sa inyo. Nakita ko kasi, ngayon nagtuturo din ako, mas like ngayon, di ba? Like 90% of the time, usap ko lang kayo. Tapos nakakapag-discuss ako from start to finish. Di ba? Kung minsan lang ako tumitingin sa equipment ko, pag may nakalimutan ako. Pero for the most part, nasasabi natin yung gusto nating sabihin. Why is that? Kasi napansin ko nga, sagot kasi ako ng sagot lagi. So parang gano'n, nagugulat ako. May memory retention ako. Why? Kasi nga, naaalala ko na sinagutan ko to at some point. Nabibigyan ko pa kayo ng proper context. Ano, tingin niyo ba all 8 subjects, kaya niyo na basa-basa lang? Of course not. 'Di ba? Tapos makakapagbigay kayo ng concrete examples from that. Hindi, 'di ba? It takes may diskarte talaga for that. No, and lang talaga yung naging parang hack ko. Bakit ako ba't ko nakaka-simplify din? Kasi nagsasagot ako. So nagsasagot ako, ganito pala yung isang way of applying this. Now I can do my own. I can apply it in uh, other pang angle, no? And at the same time nga kasi siyempre di natin maitatanggi, meron na rin akong experience as a lawyer, no? Ito ang commercial law, pwede ko siya 'tong corporation law specifically, hindi commercial law, wala naman ako sa bangko. So hindi buong commercial law. Corporation law, I can discuss this properly. Siguro next year magpe-prep pa ako ng mabuti. Pero medyo confident na ako na kaya ko siya kasi, nagkaroon na ako ng experience din. Naka-experience na ako 3 times na rin po akong with experienceado na akong mag-incorporate. Kasi ngayon 'no, hindi ako nag-i-incorporate ng ibang kumpanya ng ibang tao, nag-i-incorporate ako ng kumpanya ko. So kahit papaano nabibigay ko talaga sa inyo yung how does this work? No, yun lang naman. Saka siyempre 'pag na-apply mo sa business kahit papaano 'di ba, hindi lang, based na iba, kahit papaano nagkakaroon ka talaga ng knowledge from both sides, legal side at saka dun talaga sa owner side kapag corporation law. So medyo sa corporation law, medyo gamay natin siya 'no, kaya lang natingin ako dun sa sa requisites ng denial ng preemptive right. Kasi nawala sa'kin yung number 2 saka number 3, mahaba kasi yan, yung lalo dun sa 2/3 vote or purchase corporate property or to pay previously contracted debt, 'no? Anyway, so let's go back, 'no? Basa tayo ng bar question, nag-anecdote na ako ng konti. Gusto ko lang talaga kasi i-point out sa inyo, please, kung kailangan second read muna kayo, tama naman yun, 'no? Di ko sinasabing mag-one read lang kayo. Second read if you have the time, but limit the things that you read ng second time. Okay? Read those na hindi nyo get. No? It is waste of energy. Yan pa isa ko napansin. No? Tandaan nyo, kapag may goal kayo sa buhay at masipag kayo, di ba? Hindi kayo tamad. Ang magiging challenge nyo is where do you allocate your energy? Where do you allocate your time? Ngayon, challenge din yan para sa akin. Diba, sabihin natin, you all have the same amount of hours in a day. And sabihin natin lahat tayo masipag, we are all willing to work. Diba? And you can only work so much, probably 10 hours tops of 10 hours maximum of productive work. Hindi na kaya ng 12, no? Hindi ka naman robot. So, in those 10 hours, sabihin natin, you need to allocate your time to the best methods or best moves, no? You need to move properly so that you can maximize your time. Reading the things that you already know, that you've already memorized, yung mga requisites na yan, this is not a proper use of your time. Hindi siya yung tamang quote-unquote discarte. That's not how you maximize the time that's given to you. Hindi. Kasalanan ko din yan. Kasi akala ko no, 3-4 grades, no? Yan ang paraan para tumaas ang exam ang grade sa bar. Wrong. Tataas ang grade mo sa bar if may diskarte ka. Okay? So yan, no? Lalo na sa mga finite and time working, use your second rate sa mga hindi nyo pa nagigit, no? Yung talagang hindi nyo get, sabihin natin kung lahat ng topics hindi nyo 100% get, 70% ang get nyo. Yung second rate nyo, gamitin nyo sa 30% lang ang get, 40% lang ang get. Get nyo lang talaga yung iceberg, hindi nyo talaga get yung basically yung extensive discussion. That's how you allocate your time. No? Kasi nga, kailangan nyo, hindi pwedeng hindi kayo makakapag-check ng mga previous bar questions. Hindi pwede. Napakadalas po, no? Talagang yung last year, ito yung tanong, this year yung pa rin yung same topic pa rin. Napakaraming beses po nun. All subjects. Like, kahit sa ethics na lang. Last year, tinanong yung impropriety sa new Code of Judicial Conduct. This year, tinanong ulit. Last year, tinanong yung inhibition, compulsory. Tinanong din this year. Probably yung last year, tinanong siya kasi yung lawyer, siya executor ng last will and testament. This year, tinanong naman kasi relatives. Pero same provision under the new Code of Judicial Conduct. Ganun po nangyayari every year. Maraming ganun na nangyayari every year. O kapag sa labor law naman, last year fourfold, this year fourfold. Last year labor only, this year labor only. Sa civil law, last year psychological incapacity, this year psychological incapacity. Last year right of way, this year right of way. Diba? Ganun lang, iniba lang ng konti yung provision, pero andun lang. Doon lang din breeding ground lang din, andun lang din yung mga tanong. Diba? So bakit natin i-neglect yung Q&A side? Diba? Yun lang naman ako, no? Kailangan, hindi pwede din nyo sa magawa. Hindi pwede din nyo sa magawa para sa akin. Kahit wag na kayo magsagot kasi I know it's time consuming. Wag na yun. Okay? Kasi alam natin, hindi naman pareho time ng lahat. Basahin nyo lang, guys. No? Especially, mga enrollees, no? I give you the materials for that, yung Q&A. No? And pinaghirapan talaga natin siya. Alak method lahat. Same format. And ang ginawa ko doon, hindi lang siya yung sagot na maiksi. Sagot siya na alak method, but pag binasa mo yung Q&A, parang nagbabasa ng book in a way. Diba, writing pa yung sinabi ko. Okay. Nagbabasa ka ng book in a way kasi nakikita mong extensive. Yung sa alak, yung L, yung legal base. Hindi ko na sinabi yung, sabihin natin, elements ng crime. Hindi ko na sinabi yung one element na wala dun sa facts. Kaya hindi yun ang crime na nakumit. Hindi lang ganun. Minimake sure natin na nilalagay natin lahat ng elements. Kung theft yan, nilalagay mo lahat. Kung robbery yan, with homicide, nilalagay natin lahat. Okay? So that, kahit paano, nagigate nyo rin. Kasi my purpose now is not to get 5/5 sa bar question or 3/3. My purpose is for you to understand why, understand na ito yung sagot at bakit ito yung sagot. Kasi extensive yung discussion. Okay? Anyway, basa tayo. Sorry, matagal din naging anecdote ko. Basa tayo ng appraisal right questions. Ay, appraisal right. Derivative suit questions sa bar, no? To mas malakas siguro yung mic ko ngayon kasi malapit na ako sa mic. Ayan, no? Pang podcast. Di pala pang podcast, pang Facebook Live yung mic natin, no? Mabigat. Kaya buti kahit na medyo malayo ako sa likod kasi nagusulat ako, naririnig niyo ako. No? Kasi nga, nag-invest na tayo sa proper mic. Hindi na tayo naka-headphones. No? Okay. Ayan. Okay, so 2019 question number 2. Diba? In May 2018, ABC Corporation entered into a merchandising contract which terms and conditions were totally lopsided in favor of the other party, XYZ Incorporated. So, ayan, ABC, XYZ. As a result, ABC suffered tremendous financial losses. A year after, or in May 2019, tingnan niyo yung tanong ha, Mr. X became a stockholder of ABC Corp. Learning about the circumstances surrounding the merchandising contract entered in 2018, Mr. X filed a derivative suit against the directors of ABC Corp to claim damages on behalf of ABC Corp due to their mismanagement. So first question is, what is a derivative suit? A derivative suit is a suit by a shareholder to enforce a corporate cause of action. Diba? In derivative suit, it is the corporation that is the victim. No? And the real party in interest, while the stockholder, the relator, tawag sa kanya, relator stockholder, is merely a nominal party. So, the corporation must be impleaded in the derivative suit. You get the point. Okay? So, in this case, was Mr. X's filing of a derivative suit proper? Ang sagot dyan, yung first requisite. The first requisite is absent. Sabi nga sa derivative suit, the suit or the petitioner must be a stockholder, the plaintiff must be a stockholder when the cause of action accrued or when the act complained of was committed. In this case, the merchandising contract was entered into in 2018. Mr. X became a stockholder of record in 2019. Can he file a derivative suit? The answer is no. Because he was not a stockholder of record at the time of the execution of the merchandising contract. That is your answer. Diba? Kita nyo naman. Diba? Bar questions na to ha. Next pa tayo. Ay. O, to. This is an older bar question, no? Anong bar ba to? Naku, mahaba ito. Okay, anyway, tatakil natin together. This is bar question nung 2014, no? 2014 bar exams. Sige, number 15. Number 15, 2014 bar exams. A, B, C, and D were members of the 2003-2004 Board of Directors of FLP Corporation. At the election for the 2004-2005 Board of Directors, so ibig sabihin yung next year. Alam naman natin, ayan, tangent pa, magdadagdag na ako ng, hindi ko itatakil, dinidiscuss ko na kayo. Alam naman natin na ang Board of Directors, pag stock corporation, like this case, 1 year lang ang term. So next year, kailangan na ng bagong eleksyon. Okay? Anyway. They filed in court a derivative suit. Ayan, no? At the election for the 2004-2005 Board of Directors, not one of them was elected. So si A, B, C, and D, talo sila sa 2004-2005 election. Okay. They filed in court a derivative suit, no? On behalf of FLP Corporation against the newly elected members of the board. So sabihin natin yung bago na elect si JKLMN. O ayan, JKLMN. O ayan. They questioned the validity of the election as it was allegedly marred by lack of quorum and prayed for the nullification of the said election. Uulitin ko, they filed in court a derivative suit on behalf of FLP. So, ibig sabihin, pasok sila sa no problem in number 1. No problem. Stockholder na yan. Member of the board nga di ba? Pasok yan. Okay? Okay na rin yung number 3. Okay na rin yan. Bakit? Ang hinahablan nila rito yung bagong board. Di ba? So, in a sense, the corporation is in complete control of the defendants. Yung bagong board Di ba? Pwede rin siya harassment. Hindi siya harassment, no? Legitimate na may pinaglalaban nila, may problema talaga. And appraisal right is not available kasi wala namang merger, consolidation, hindi naman binenta yung lahat ng property ng corporation, hindi naman nagkaroon ng investment, di ba? Hindi naman nag-amend ng Articles of Incorporation. So, di ba? Wala doon. Tanong, but proper ba yung derivative suit o improper? The sagot is improper siya. Ano po ang mali? Number 6. In this case po, dapat hindi derivative suit ang final nila. Because in a derivative suit, the corporation has the cause of action. In other words, the corporation is the victim. Is the person directly injured by the corporate act. In this case po, hindi naman yung corporation ang direct na na-injure. Ang directly po na-injure, sila. Sila natanggal sa posisyon So they should have filed an individual suit for sa kanilang liba. They should have filed an individual suit. So dapat A, B, C, D, E versus JKLMN. Hindi mo dapat inimplead yung corporation, yung pangalan ng corporation doon sa suit. Kasi this dispute is between the stockholders or the former directors to the new directors. Sila po sa former directors ang na-injure, hindi yung corporation. So bakit improper yung derivative suit? Because of this. Wala problema sa number 2 kasi nakalagay naman dito sa facts, they filed in court a derivative suit on behalf of FLP Corporation. So that means talagang ipinangalan nila corporation, ipinangalan nila suit sa pangalan ng corporation. In-imprint nila corporation as the real party in interest. Dito po nagkaroon ng problema sa number 6. Diba? Nakita nyo? Diba dyan ang tanungan? Why? Kasi yung cause of action, hindi nila alam. Sila pala ang may cause of action. Not the corporation. O attorney, paano pag tinanong kami sa remedial law? How would we answer that? Ang sagot dyan, affirmative defense kasi failure to state. Okay? Improperly alleged yung allegations. Why? Kasi ang ipinangalan yung real party in interest corporation, pero yung allegations na yan malamang nakapangalan kayo ang na-injure. So the corporation, di ba, yung corporation ng real party in interest supposedly dito, it did not state a cause of action in its favor. The corporation failed to state a cause of action in its favor. Kasi yung cause of action na nilagay sa allegations, cause of action ng mga directors, former directors. So, failure to state cause of action ng sagot. Di ba? Sana po nag-get nyo. Remedial yun. Ito tayo, hindi syempre, nasa corporation law tayo, nasa commercial law. Your answer is this one. Okay? Di ba? Simple lang. Di ba? Lumilipad na tayo ng remedial law, corporation law, di ba? Ay, commercial law. Di ba? Tama naman ba yung argument ko na yun? Yes, no? Kasi, the corporation did not allege. Tama naman. Any cause of action in its favor. Kasi assuming nga na corporation yung real party in interest, no? Okay. Okay, sige. Hiningal ako dun. Bakit? Kasi 4 na topics yung tinakel ko. Derivative suit lang dapat. Ano yung mga tinakel ko? Derivative suit, appraisal right, preemptive right, tapos yung term ng directors. Di ba? Okay. Natakal ko pala ng konti yung increase ng authorized capital stock. So, hindi pa man, wala naman sa plano, nadagdagan niyo yung topics natin. Anyway, move tayo to balik tayo sa intellectual property law. Unfair competition, no? Unfair competition, how do we differentiate that from trademark infringement, no? So, ayan, no? Ang una po nilang ang una nilang distinction na kailangan makita sa bar, pag tinanong niya sa inyo, explain the difference between unfair competition and trademark infringement. Ang sagot nyo dapat elements. Okay? Hindi pala dapat passing off. Wait lang. Bukayin ko na lahat. Una nyong dapat sabihin, pinaka-important dyan, elements. Okay? What are the elements for trademark infringement? Okay. For unfair competition, may dalawang elements, no? Confusing similarity in the general appearance of the goods and intent to deceive the public and defraud the competitor. So sa unfair competition, confusing similarity saan? Sa goods. At saka ano pa daw? Intent to deceive. Intent to defraud na lang ilagay natin. Ayan. Para gusto ko salitang fraud eh. Ayan. O doon naman sa trademark infringement. Ano yung mga elements? Sa trademark infringement, mayroon pong 3 elements. Okay? The validity of the plaintiff's mark. Okay? The plaintiff's, okay? So, validity ng valid. O yan, valid. Next, ownership of that mark. Siyempre, paano ka mag-trademark infringement? Hindi naman sa iyo yung mark, no? And lastly, colorable imitation. Okay? Likelihood of confusion. So, basically, confusing similarity din. Pero iba, between the marks. Kaya ako inilagay ito dito, itong pangatlo na ito. Unfair competition refers to the goods. General appearance of the goods. Unfair competition refers to confusing similarity in the general appearance of the goods. On the other hand, on trademark infringement, confusing similarity in the appearance of the marks. Okay? Isa nga, trademark infringement dapat valid yung mark. Etong next, ownership. Takin na rin natin. How can a person have ownership over a trademark? Kailangan ng registration in good faith. Dati, no, tandaan nyo to, baka luma pa yung ano natin, luma pa yung info. Ang sagot dati, prior use. Ang paraan, di ba, para mag-acquire ng ownership over a mark. Ngayon, hindi na po. Registration in good faith. Whoever registers the mark first in good faith, no, will acquire ownership over the mark. No, the case is Zuneca Pharmaceutical versus Natra Farm. Yeah. Zuneca versus Natra Farm, 2020 case, no. So sa mga magte-take lang po ng bar for so many years, no, remember that hindi na po prior use. Okay? Registration in good faith. Okay. So yan, yun ang mga pagkakaiba, no? So to recap everything, actually, tatlo lang ang kailangan dapat nakita sa bar exam nyo. Okay? Tatlo. Para i-distinguish natin dalawa. First is elements. Number 2 is the fraud. In unfair competition, there must be fraud. In trademark infringement, fraud is not a necessary element. Ang kailangan lang, di ba, tatlo. Validity, ownership, confusing similarity, or yung tinatawag na likelihood of confusion between the two marks. There must be colorable imitation in the mark such that there would be likelihood of confusion. O yan ang isa pang dialogue dyan. Paano yung sasabihin talaga ng technical, no? Okay. Okay. Next is registration. Unfair competition. Ito ang pinaka-important sa lahat, by the way. No? Anyone, no, can file a case for unfair competition even if the trademark, no, the mark was not registered, no. While ayan, ano ba yung nilay ko dito? Ayan. Prior registration of the mark is necessary for trademark infringement, for prosecuting or for filing a case for trademark infringement, while registration is not necessary. Prior registration is not necessary for unfair competition. Okay. Meron pa akong gusto i-tackle dito, no? Di ba nakalagay dito confusing similarity sa trademark? Kasi madali naman yung sa unfair competition. How can there be confusing similarity between the general appearance, in the general appearance of two goods? Eh, titignan mo itsura nung, di ba? Itsura lang nung ano, hindi, wala na siyang test. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay? Ngayon, may test po sa trademark. Di ba may dalawa? Confusing similarity, di ba? Dominancy at saka holistic. Di ba? Pag dominancy, di ba? We analyze the prevalent features. Of dominant, malamang. Dominant or prevalent features of both marks. Kapag holistic test, the entirety. Di ba? Of the goods, not only the prevalent features of the marks, no, the entirety as well as the packaging and so on. Okay? Tandaan niyo po, ulitin ko, holistic test is already abandoned. Case is Collin versus Collin. Or parang Collin Electronic versus Collin Philippines ata. Okay, so ngayon, focus lang tayo sa dominancy test. Determine if the third requisite, third element of trademark infringement is present. Ganyan natin pag basically ganyan natin na pinagdudugtong-duktong lahat. para di kayo nalilito. So, ulitin natin, may dalawang elements sa unfair competition, may tatlo ang trademark infringement. The second requisite, ownership sa trademark infringement, you can establish that if may registration in good faith. Last naman, yung likelihood of confusion o yung colorable imitation in the marks, no, such that there would be likelihood of confusion. How do you establish that? Use the dominancy test. The dominancy test provides that, ayan, the dominant features, the prevalent features in the competing marks will be analyzed in determining whether they are confusingly similar. Yung holistic text, yung abandoned, no, requires the court to consider the entirety of the marks as applied to the products, labels, packaging, and so on. That's abandoned already. Okay. Sige, you get the point. Okay. Wait lang. Relax lang ang konti. Yeah. Move tayo to merger and consolidation. Okay. How do we differentiate merger and consolidation? Basic lang yan, no? Well, if ano muna natin, similarities muna nila. In both principles, no, there will only be one surviving corporation. Yeah. Only one surviving corporation. No? However, in merger, no, one of the constituent, tama ba ako doon? Constituent. Okay. Constituent corporations, tama ba ako sa constituent naman? Tama. One of the constituent corporation will survive. It is the surviving corporation, while the other corporation will be absorbed. Okay. In consolidation, there will also be one surviving corporation, but none of the constituent corporations will survive. No? None. Instead, no, there will be a new corporation form. Attorney, nangyayari ba madalas yung consolidation? Yes. Kung makapansin nyo guys, ang pangalan ng corporation, pinagdidikit. Pinagdidikit. Maraming mga ganong corporations, no? Pinagdidikit yung dalawang pangalan ng corporation. Sabihin natin, ABC, corporation isa naman si XYZ. Ang magiging itsura ng pangalan ng corporation later on, ABCXYZ. Alam niyo ibig sabihin nun, yung bagong corporation na yun, of course, no, hindi naman to nag-apply all the time kasi pwede naman nilang palitan lang yung name ng corporation, di ba? Pwedeng merger tapos palitan yung name. Pero pwede rin kasi ganito. Di ba, pinagdikit nila dalawa nilang pangalan, si ABCXYZ Corporation na sila. Yun po yung new corporation form. Okay? Yun yung new corporation form. A new single corporation. Yun. Sabi natin, ABC Corporation, XYZ Corporation, yung constituent corporations, and then ABC, XYZ. Yung new corporation. That means yung si ABC, saka si XYZ, they will cease to exist. Both of them will be absorbed. And then there will be a new corporation named ABC, XYZ. Of course, ulitin ko nga, pwede naman na si ABC lang nag-survive. Merger lang kasi, no? Ang na-absorb lang si XYZ. Tapos pinalitan lang ni ABC yung pangalan niya. That can also happen. Depende sa arrangement. Di ba? Depende sa nila. Diskarte ng mga di ba? Diskarte ng may-ari, no? Ng mga korporasyon na yan. Next, how do we differentiate murder, naging criminal law. How do we differentiate merger and consolidation? At saka po yung Nel Doctrine. Yan. Ano ba kasi yung Nel Doctrine? O, yan muna ang tanong, syempre, bago natin itakel. Bago natin pagparehuhin silang dalawa. Okay? The Nell Doctrine provides that, no, as a general rule, where one corporation sells or transfers all of its assets to another corporation, so transfer of assets, no, the latter is not liable for the debts and liabilities of the transferor. So sabihin natin, si ABC, ano siya, car wash. Tapos, ibinenta niya lahat ng assets niya kay XYZ, car wash din. Pareho silang car wash companies. Oh. Pag binenta ni ABC, yung properties niya, all of its assets to XYZ, si XYZ ba, ina-assume niya lahat ng liabilities ni ABC? No. Kasi they still maintain separate and distinct personalities. It's just that si ABC ngayon, ang assets niya, pera na. Instead of land, the building, di ba? Equipment, pera na ngayon. ABC is still a corporation. It did not cease to exist. Hindi naman siya na-dissolve eh. Diba? So that means sa XYZ, wala yung mga liabilities man ni ABC, if any, hindi po magiging liabilities ni XYZ. Ni ABC, XYZ, yes. On the other hand, sa merger and consolidation po, yung surviving corporation, whether merger and or consolidation, they will assume all the liabilities of the absorbed corporation. Yan po ang malaking pagkakaiba niyan. Okay? Sa merger and consolidation, the surviving corporation assumes all the liabilities of the constituent corporation, of the absorbed corporation. So sabihin natin, no? Paano kayong tatanungin? Pwedeng labor law, pwedeng commercial law, no? For ano lang, para lang sabihin ko sa inyo na natatanong tong Nell Doctrine sa to merger and consolidation na to. 2016 ata itong bar na to. Wait lang, titingnan ko. Yep. 2016 bar. Question number... Ano ba dito? Wait lang. Ayan. Wait. Question number 9. Question number 9, 2016 bar, labor law. Natanong yung Nell Doctrine na yan. Context, paano? Siyempre, yung mga empleyado nung ABC Corporation, iabla si XYZ. Asan yung sweldo namin? Diba? So as a general rule nga, XYZ will not assume the liabilities of ABC. Kasi nga, they are still different persons. Okay? Siyempre may exceptions yan. Yung Nell Doctrine. Yung Nell Doctrine po, no? Mayroong 4 na exceptions. The first one is when the purchaser, no, the transferor, agrees to assume the debts, assume the wages, the debts, liabilities for wages ni ABC. Agreement, ang una. Siyempre, di kita tatanungin dyan. Napakadali naman, di ba? May agreement eh. Next, where the transaction amounts to a consolidation or merger. Ayun na nga. Kasi sa consolidation or merger, anyway, end na lang, sige. Sa consolidation or merger, no, ina-assume nga kasi nung surviving corporation, nung new corporation, di ba, yung liabilities ng previous ones, no, o previous one, including na rin yung bayad sa sweldo. Next, the transferee, no, the purchaser is merely a continuation of the selling corporation. Continuation. And lastly, it was entered into fraudulently in order to escape the liabilities of the seller corporation. Fraud. Okay. How do we simplify this one? Siyempre, agreement. Ilalagay niyo dapat sa exam niyo yan. No? Pag tinanong kayo, what is the Nell Doctrine? Ilalagay niyo yan. The Nell Doctrine provides that as a general rule, di ba? When corporation sells all of its assets to another corporation, the latter does not assume the liabilities of the former, except these four instances. No? Next is, it amounted to consolidation or merger. Tapos tandaan niyo po itong number 3 at saka number 4, ang context ng pareho siyang fraudulent. The new corporation is just a continuation of the previous corporation. Ano tawag dyan? Ano tawag dyan? Doctrine of piercing the corporate veil. You pierce it kasi they are one in the same. Next is piercing din to isa. It was entered into fraudulently to escape liability. Fraud case na piercing. Itong continuation, ano ba similar word for continuation? Conduit. Alter ego. Diba? Patterns. Hindi po natin pahirapan pa ng ganun daw. No? Babanggit pa kayo ng alter ego doctrine dito sa net doctrine. Wag na. Basta ilagay nyo lang continuation. Okay. How can you prove the continuation siya na hindi siya separate and distinct personality? Check nyo yung facts. And then yung like in this case, no, ito, the labor law. Fraudulently, madali na to escape liability. Hindi ko na kailangan pang sa inyo yan. I-illustrate. Makikita nyo na may fraud eh. Di ba may tinatakasang creditors. Kaya ginawa yung bagong corporation. So basically nga, pwede nyo siyang atakihin. Pag tinanong kayo, kung gusto nyo siyang atakihin ng Nel Doctrine, use this. Okay? Or pag sinabi sa inyo, apply the Nel Doctrine, ganito nyo i-apply. Pero pag tinanong kayo ng Doctrine of Piercing the Corporate Veil, i-apply nyo yung the corporate of legal fiction, di ba, is parang pierced when, di ba, when the separate and distinct personality of corporations was used to defeat public convenience, mga ganyan, di ba, to evade fraud, di ba, to protect crime, and so on and so forth. Okay. Or pag alter ego, di ba, mayroong tatlong elements, di ba, may complete domination, may fraud, at saka proximate cause. Kung gusto nyo atakihin doon, I suggest pwede nyo ring ibanat na ganun, no? Kasi mas precise yun. Pero kung tatanungin tayo ng differentiation ng MNC, merger and consolidation, saka sa Nel Doctrine, yan nga, merger and consolidation, ulitin ko, may assumption ka ng liability nung dating mga corporation. Dito, wala. None. Except, if agreement, it amounted to consolidation or merger, it's just a continuation of the former corporation, or the contract was entered into fraudulently to escape the payment of debts. Escape liability. No? Sige, you get the point, no? So, anyway, ito di ko na rin tatakil to, pero pasok ko na rin, no? Tandaan nyo, tatlo yan sa piercing, no? The corporate veil. Equity cases, fraud cases, alter ego cases. Hayaan nyo na equity, hayaan nyo na yun, no? Kasi we're not, we don't have the discretion to apply equity cases. Kasi syempre, nag-a-apply yan, courts, no? Judges, no? Justices. Ngayon, focus tayo sa alter ego saka sa fraud. Tandaan nyo, una nyo isipin kung papasok muna sa alter ego. May complete domination ba? Hindi lang po yan, hindi lang po yan ownership. Diba same ang ownership ng una sa pangalawang corporation? Hindi lang po yun. Same director, same stocks, hindi lang, that's not enough. Kailangan may complete domination. May complete domination in the policies, no? The first corporation dominates the policies, no, the movements, no, the actions of the second corporation. And next, may fraud din and proximate cause, no? May the fraudulent act was the proximate cause of the injury of the petition or something like that. Okay. O ngayon, attorney, paano pag hindi papasok sa alter ego kasi mukhang wala namang complete domination? At saka nyo i-apply yung fraud case. Kasi fraud case, mas malawak yung net niyan. Mas malawak yung cost. Anything na na-defeat ang public convenience, basically any fraudulent act at ginamit yung separate and distinct personalities ng mga corporations to perform this fraudulent act, pasok sa fraud cases. Ganun nyo siya i-approach. O kung wala po sa alter ego, wala din sa fraud, ang sagot nyo, doctrine of separate and distinct personality na. That's your answer. Kasi that means talagang malinis naman yung galaw ng corporation. We need to respect their separate and distinct personalities of the two corporations. Ganon ang style. Anyway, mga ganyan matututunan nyo lang talaga. Kaya nga andito ko para mag-get nyo Diba? Siyempre, di naman sa ituturo sa law school na ganyan pala dapat. No? Methodika lang pagbanat dyan sa piercing. No? Na dapat, wag lang pala sabog. No? Dapat inaayos natin, alter ego muna. Check nyo kung alter ego, check nyo kung fraud case. Kapag wala sa dalawa, distinct, separate personality pala ang sagot dapat. Di ba? Pag kasi nagbasa tayo sa material, sa books, ibabato lang talaga sa inyo yan, di ba? Bahala na kayo kung paano yung i-absorb. So ako ganun. No? Kasi napansin ko, sige, no, binabasa ko tong facts. Mukhang wala namang alter ego kasi wala namang domination na nangyari. First requisite pa lang, bagsak na sa alter ego Pero halatang halata naman po na may fraudulent act na ginawa. Halata. Ano, dahil lang walang complete domination, hindi na tayo mag-pierce? Of course not. So doon ka pumunta sa fraud case. Kaya nga naging siyang parang tier list. Oh, first tier, second tier, third tier. Third tier yung distinct and separate personalities talaga sila. We uphold that doctrine. Ganun yung i-approach. From the worst to ano ba? From the most complicated to the least complicated. Pinaka-complicated dyan yung alter ego kasi di ba maraming requisites pa. Okay, so ang dami nating added info, no? Yun. Procedure ngayon sa mergers and consolidation. So, naubusan na tayo ng whiteboard ng space. Ididikta ko na lang sa inyo. Okay, for there to be a valid merger na lang, no? The following must be present, no? Tandaan nyo, vote by the board. And then vote by the stockholders. And then certificate of merger issued by the SEC. Okay. Ano yung tatlo na requirements dyan, no? So, ano po ba yung requirement sa vote ng board, no? Majority, at least majority of the board of directors of each corporation. Each, dalawa sila, no? Hindi pwedeng isa lang. Dalawa dapat silang corporations. Both of them dapat nakita na majority ng board bumoto. Next is stockholders representing at least 2/3 of the outstanding capital stock of each corporation. Ulit. So merger po ito, ibig sabihin pati mga preferred shareholders, pati mga non-voting shareholders or shares without voting rights, they can vote in this corporate act kasi merger or consolidation to Okay, and lastly, there must be a certificate of merger issued by the SEC. Kasi yung pong certificate na yun, ang nagbibigay ng effectivity dun sa merger, para lang siyang sa incorporation. When does the personality of a corporation commence? The juridical personality of the corporation commence upon the issuance of the certificate of incorporation by the SEC. Doon po siya nag-i-start. Okay. Ayan, no? So, ano na tayo? 5 topics, no? Well, di lang pala. 5 lang isinulat ko rito, pero magte-10 na ata tayo ng mga tangent topics, pati pinapasok natin talaga kasi yung mga ibang mga info na gusto ko ipasok, no? Anyway, mas mahaba talaga yung step sa case law, no? Mas piniksi ko lang 3. Ito talaga yung sa case law. The board of each corporation must draw up a plan of merger or consolidation, no? Such plan must include any amendment if necessary, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, nasa pre-read nyo naman na I don't want to overcomplicate it. Babasa lang ako sa inyo. No? Lalagay ko na lang sa ano. Okay, tuloy tayo sa insurance, no? Insurable interest. Sa insurable interest, di ba, either property or life lang yung possible ay tatanong sa inyo. Handaan nyo sa property, huwag nyo nang sabihin yung andun sa tip, sa atin na lang to Huwag nyo nang sabihin doon sa section 19 yung an interest in property insured huwag nyo nang sabihin yung, wait, may nakita na ako dito Eto, section 14, nakalagay dyan, an insurable interest in property may consist in an existing right, an inchoate right founded on an existing right, or an expectancy coupled with existing interest in that out of which the expectancy arises. Wag na yun, guys. Wag nyo nang gamitin yun. Saka nakalagay pa rito sa saan pa ba yun? May isa pa ako nabasa dito Ito, section 13. Every interest in property, whether real or personal or any relation thereto or liability in respect thereof of such nature that a contemplated peril might directly damnify the insured is an insurable interest. Wag na yan. Guys, case law dictates that there is insurable in a property if the insured will suffer pecuniary loss in case of the loss or destruction of the property or the insured will be benefited from the preservation of that property. Yun lang po ang ilang kailangang makita para masagot nyo kung may insurable interest o wala yung insured. Magsasuffer pa siya pag nasira at magbe-benefit pa siya pag na-preserve. Yun lang. Okay? Ngayon, magkakatalo tayo sa extent ng insurable interest. Yan po, case-to-case basis yan. Diba? Iba ang insurable interest ng mortgagor sa mortgagee. Okay, so ang mortgagor, ito sa extent of insurable interest. Ang extent po ng insurable interest, kailangan po yan to prevent overinsurance. No? Kasi overinsurance is not allowed, di ba? Mas mataas ang amount of the insurance policy compared to the insurable interest, that's not allowed. Dapat consummate lang or less. Less or consummate. Commensurate. No? Pantay. Equal or less than dapat yung amount of the insurance policy. Okay. Extent of insurable interest, di ba? Ang mortgagor, the value of the whole property. Mortgagee, the value of the debt. No? The value of the debt. Okay. Doon tayo sa insurable interest sa life. Tandaan nyo, wala pong extent ang insurable interest. Ang insurable interest over the life of a person. May exemption po dyan. Ito. Number 3. Dalawa pala exemptions. Pecuniary interest at saka, hindi pala kasali pecuniary interest. Itong legal obligation. Payment of money, property, or services. Kasi sabihin natin, A, borrowed money from B. Pwedeng i-insure ni B yung buhay ni A. What's the extent of the insurable interest? The amount of the loan. Kasi A was legally obligated to him to pay money. Okay, so kung magkano man yung utang, yun ang insurable interest ni BKA. That's the limit. But in other instances here, wala po siyang limit kasi we cannot put a limit in a life. Okay? So ngayon, takin natin kung sino mga may insurable interest, no? Over the life, himself, no? His own life, the life of his spouse, the life of his children. Tandaan niyo po, life of parents, hindi po nabanggit dyan. Life of ascendants, hindi po nabanggit dyan. Life of siblings, hindi nabanggit dyan. Okay? Anak, apo, hindi rin nabanggit dyan. Okay? Buhay niya lang, buhay ng kanyang asawa, buhay ng kanyang anak. Walang, diba? Mas malala yung relatives. No? Hindi rin kasali magulang. Unless, papasok siya sa number 2. If nagde-depend po yung insured for support dun sa mali. If a person insures the life of a person whom he depends upon for support. Yan. Sabihin natin, hindi mo nabanggit yung kapatid, pero doon ka nagdidependa ng suporta sa kapatid mo, may insurable interest ka over his or her life. Same thing kapag lola. Same thing kapag apo. If you depend upon him for support, you can insure his life. Okay? Tapos ito, ano po itong pecuniary interest? Ganito po ang context ng example niyan. Sabihin natin, corporation, may CEO. The CEO is super important to them, no, para maging profitable ang company. The corporation can ensure the life of the CEO, of the president. Ano man ang title niya. How much? Depende. No? Bahala siya. Bahala ang corporation. Itong corporation kung magkano. No? Okay. Whose life any estate or interest vested in him depends. Sabihin natin kapag ah, nabuhay yung tao na to for X amount of years, mapupunta sa kanya yung property. Sabihin natin gano'n. Yun yung may last will and testament, sabi sa last will and testament, if this person lives for X amount of years, you will have the property, Mr. A. Namatay yung before that year. Sabihin natin. Sabihin natin, before pa mamatay yung tao na yun, pwede ba i-insure yung buhay? Yes. Di ba may last will and testament, sabi sa last will and testament, if Juan de la Cruz lives for 10 years, Pedro will receive. If still alive, within 10 years from the execution of this will, Pedro will acquire ownership over this property. May insurable interest si Pedro sa buhay ni Juan. Kasi pag si Pedro namatay, within those 10 years, wala siyang property. Vested in him depends. Get? O ngayon, dito tayo sa insured versus beneficiary. Okay? Tandaan nyo, sa life insurance, only the insured must have insurable interest over the life of himself, spouse, children, and so on. Okay? The beneficiary can have no insurable interest. Ulitin natin. Sorry. Okay. If, mali. Okay, medyo na rin. Namali ako doon. If the insured insures his own life, he can designate anyone as his beneficiary, even if this beneficiary has no legal interest over his life. Sabihin natin, in-insure ni Juan ang kanyang buhay for 1 million pesos. Pwede niyang gawing beneficiary kapatid niya. Kahit di kapatid niya, hindi kasali dyan sa listahan. That's fine. However, sabihin natin, if one insures the life of his spouse, yung kanyang may bahay, kailangan may insurable interest doon sa buhay, doon sa life nung may bahay niya. Okay? Also, the beneficiary can be anyone. Yan ang point ko. Okay, sabihin natin, in-insure ni Juan ang buhay ng kanyang asawa. Sino beneficiary? Pwedeng siya, pwedeng yung kanyang mga, sabihin natin, yung anak niya, pinsan niya. The beneficiary can be anyone. Okay? Ang kailangan lang talaga sa insurable interest sa life, yung insured. Okay? Sa property naman, insurable interest, kailangan may insurable interest yung nag-insured at saka yung beneficiary. Both of them must have insurable interest. Okay. We're done here. Exception pala, no? Hindi pwede maging beneficiary yung persons who are guilty of adultery or concubinage as provided under the civil code. They cannot, no? Provided sa civil code. No? Di ba sabi ko, anyone can be a beneficiary in life insurance. Exception yan.